Hola, hola! Welcome to the Breakthrough Brand Show. I'm Fabi Paolini, and my mission on this podcast is to give you the behind-the-scenes stories, anecdotes, and unique perspectives behind building a premium brand that makes a real impact. I believe that when you create a message that is aligned with your truth, you can have the breakthroughs that changes lives. Each week, me and my guests share with you how we're making an impact with our message and the stories behind our success. So that being said, let's dive into today's episode. All right. Well, I am so excited today to welcome Marisa Corcoran to the show. She is a Harvard-trained actor turned lead generation and copy expert. She helps coaches and creators craft their million-dollar message and use it to create a virtual stage that brings in their genius to the wider world. I'm really excited to have you here, Marisa. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Fabi. I'm really happy to be here. This is really exciting. Thank you.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so tell me what you do in your own words.
Yeah, such a great question. So, I always tell people will think that, when it comes to copy, that's something I will focus on later in my business. I have to be selling. I have to, do my audience growth. And so people will sometimes say, copy is the icing on the cake. And I always say, copy isn't the icing on the cake. It is the cake. It's the butter. If you're gluten-free like me, it's the gluten-free flour. It's the eggs. It's how these other things that you want to have happen start to come alive in your business. You want to sell in a way that feels good. You want to call in the right people to sell to. Then you have to know what to say and how to say it to call those people in. And that's what we help people do. We help business owners craft your uncopyable message and the copy that supports it so that you can call in the right people to sell to. And we also have another branch of the business where I always say, once you message it, you can market it. And so we also support people to create their own stage with a signature summit to really bring their ideal people into them without relying on posting in other people's Facebook groups, without relying on paid ads and even referrals, really creating their virtual stages, we said, that brings their genius to the wider world. But we can't do that until your message is clear and specific.
I love that. Okay. So I want to kind of unpack both things a little bit. And I love having this conversation with you because you and I do similar things. And I want to just hear what your point of view is on certain things, just because it's so powerful to learn and grow from other people as well. So I'm excited. So the first thing that I want to ask you is, what is the difference for you between what branding is and what copywriting is, and how do these things work together?
Ooh, that's such a good question. No one's ever asked me this before. To me, messaging, right? I always say the best copy. So to me, there's even a difference between message and copy.
Yeah, I agree.
To me, the best copy cannot fix a muddied message. So if you're trying to look at a sales copy template or swipe copy or caption templates or whatever it is, and you're having trouble filling those in, it's likely that you don't have a copy problem, you have a messaging problem. So we first have to make sure that that is clear and specific. That's like when someone asks you what you do, how you answer that question. That's like that clear message. And then the copy is what supports it, the words that you're using. And so to me, branding comes in a sense of part of the copy of how we boost that messaging, how we bring it forward. Elements, because I always say people make purchasing decisions based on two things. One is what you're selling, something that I want. That's the message. And number two, are you the person that I want to do it with? And I think that's where your branding really comes in. Do we get a sense of this person's voice, vibe, personality? And that could be through the words that you're using, the pictures, the design, that whole bit. So to me, message is where we start, and the branding is kind of what elevates that all.
I love that. So what do you feel is really fundamental for you to define your message? What are the pieces that you focus on helping your clients with in terms of, okay, who am I? What do I want to say? Who do I want to bring in? All of that.
Yeah. So I always joke and I say that the Ghostbusters have the absolute best messaging of all time. You know who you're going to call, you know why you call them. There's even a song about it.
That's true.
And I really believe that if people can create something that is as clear and specific as the Ghostbusters, we're in a way better spot. A lot of times I always joke and I say, like, in this economy, we cannot be saying that, like, I help you live your best life or elevate your purpose or a billion. We can't. We have to be, because our buyers are savvier than ever. And our buyers need multiple touch points in order to make the right purchasing decision for them. So we have to really be like that answer for what they're seeking out. I always use this example, actually, which is a recent example for me, is that I'm totally fine now, but last year I had breast cancer. And when I was at the event, actually, Fabi, you and I were there together in Miami. And I was sharing a little bit about this journey with Selena Sue. And I was saying, you know, I'm really looking for somebody who can support me, like, after breast cancer, a coach. Like, they want to put me on this medicine, they want to put me on this. And I'm like terrified, like, what do I eat? What do I do? I just wish I had somebody who, like, really understood what I was going through. And maybe about 3 days later, Selena popped into my inbox and said, hey, I know somebody who does this. This is what they specialize in. They support, you know, women after breast cancer. Do you want to be connected to them? And I got connected to them, and that person became my coach that I'm still, you know, working with, that helped me put together my, like, post-cancer kind of nutrition and protocol. And I've never felt like more taken care of. One of the best decisions I ever made in my life. And that was because that person was so specific. They were like, there could be no, they were the only choice for me. And so when we go through inside of my program called the Copy Confidence Society, we have we use the Ghostbusters kind of messaging. So in the movie, in the Ghostbusters, they wear that proton pack. That's what they use to fight the ghosts with. So we call it the proton pack messaging playbook. And there are a few very specific P's that we run through there: person, product, purpose, and perspective. And so within that, we're really trying to get clear. And it doesn't mean you have to hit all of the P's, right? But we're looking to really uncover which of those P's really comes to life. So in the case of my coach, is like supporting, you know, women after breast cancer. That's a real focus on the P of person, right? And the P of the P of product in a way. And there is the P of purpose too, which is to, like, you know, set your body up for like ultimate health and prevent, you know, cancer from coming back. But we're really looking at those, like, specific P's. So if you're a love coach, let's say, and we're running through the proton pack messaging playbook, it's like, okay, is it a love coach for people who are single? Is it a love coach for people who are currently in a relationship? And then if they're within that, okay, what are they wanting? Is it someone who is in a current relationship and maybe this is their second marriage and they're wanting to, like, thrive in that second marriage? Is it a couple who's been married for 10 years plus and is trying to kind of, like, bring the romance back? So we can kind of go through the P's to really create something that's clear and specific.
I love that. And I mean, obviously I believe, and I do the same thing with my clients as well. I think that people have this belief, like, well, if I get too specific, I'm leaving people out, right? And it's so interesting to me how untrue that is. Actually, like, the more specific you are, the more that you will attract people. And I often give this example of me on TikTok. I am a huge TikTok consumer. Like, when I have free time, I have 3 kids, so I don't have a lot of free time. But when I have free time, I will be, like, on my TikTok. And if I were to come across a video that's like, here's how to grow your business, okay, scroll, right? But if it's like, here's how to consistently or how to grow your business from 100K months to 150, I'm going to stop, because I'm like, oh, that's where I'm at. Like, how do you do that? And you would think that it's going to, you know, turn away people, but it's going to turn away the people that you want to turn away. You want to attract the type of people who are interested in what you have to sell. And that can only happen through specificity. If that makes sense. I mean, obviously.
No, I thought that is such a great example. And I think that there is this underlying fear. We talk about this a lot in this society of, like you said, what if I leave people out? But I think there's 2 things. Is like, sometimes I always say to people, I'm like, start making money and have a full client roster. And then we'll be worried about if you're leaving people out. Like, let's make money first. And then we can worry if you're leaving people out, because usually there's this underlying fear that isn't true. Because, like, what you're saying, Fabi, is like, I've only ever seen that the more specific you are, the more that brings the right people to you. And I always talk about these 3 R's. We're that specific. So we had a member of our community that really supports people to kind of break through, like, what to eat and when to eat it, to break through to their migraine-free life.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a person that I use as an example inside of the society is really clear messaging. And last year, a few people reached out to me like, hey, Marisa, do you have that person's information? I know somebody who could really benefit from them. So because this person was so specific, I'm like using it as an example.
Right.
It helps people do these 3 R's that people will remember you, rave about you, and refer you. So when you're talking about what you do, my goal when I'm hearing somebody share their message is like, could I refer this person and who would I refer them to? And if I can answer that question within like the seconds that they're saying it to me, I know we're on to something.
100%.
And so that's why I so agree with you, Fabi. Like we have to remember, it's like just why I joked before and saying like in this economy, like we can't leave it. Like our attention, like the way that we're looking is like, oh, this is for me. And when you call in the right people, that's going to lead you to a more satisfying business. It usually leads to those things like more income, more impact, the things that you want. And also, I think we have to remember there are so many people.
Yeah.
I remember coming across this Facebook group that was like for owners of the dog, like corgis, like the little corgi dog. And there were 450,000 people or something like that in this Facebook group. That's one breed of dog. So I think sometimes we're like, oh my gosh, we're going to miss out. But how many people need what you have? You can create a very lucrative, beautiful business from that as well. Just from that focus without feeling like, and you won't be missing out on people. You'll be getting the right people, like you said.
Right. And I mean, obviously, I think that part of that comes from what the world used to look like before, but this is 2023, right? Like it's a different economy and we're not now selling only to our block. I would understand if you had a very, very local business where your clients are literally the people on your street where you're like, well, I can't leave people out, right? I understand that. But now this is literally a global economy and there's millions of people who have the problem that you're able to solve. So I definitely think that's important. And then kind of adding to what you were saying around why it's important for you to get specific. I think that something that people often don't realize is that when you're more specific, your clients are going to get better results too. Because now
1,000,000,000%.
Right. Like now let's go back to the example of me scrolling through TikTok, right? If I'm going to join a coaching program that is about me, I don't know, like going from 100 to 150K per month, well, it requires me to be at 100K per month, right? And therefore, it's much more likely for me to get to 150. But if you're like, well, I'm going to help you grow your business, and I'm at 100, just to give an example, and you know, I'm going to have more success than somebody who's like in the beginning phases of their business, right? So it's like the more specific you are with your message, the better results your clients are going to get. And the more your business is going to grow as a result of that, because you're getting great results from people, period.
100%. Right. And as we go through like the P's that I was saying, Fabi, also, it's like, sometimes like what you're saying, like that P in our world, it's like that P of purpose, like to go from the 100, 150. And then sometimes that might not be the P that people focus on. They might be a P where they support jewelry designers, right? And so like, we're really just looking where people can see themselves so that they're going to get those results, like you're saying, which I absolutely love. And usually what happens when people break through to that, all of these beautiful things start to happen. But do you find, Fabi, that is the hardest thing for people to grasp onto, is the importance of that like specific message? I feel like that is the hardest thing for most people when they kind of enter, and it is to kind of take that leap to be specific. I feel like there can be like a lot of stuff like in the brain, like a lot of mind garbage around it.
I think so too. And what's interesting to me is when you do take that leap, how much your business can grow. And I have a great example of this too. I had a client that I work with a couple of years ago. And when she came to me, she was just in the middle of launching an app for wellness. And it was very broad, right? App for wellness, everybody that needs wellness, mindfulness, meditation. And I kept on pushing her. And like when she joined my program, she was literally launching the app that week. So there was not much I could do there, but I kept on pushing. I was like, okay, this is good, but how do we go more specific with this? And basically, to make a long story short, she is a former first responder. So she was a former sheriff. And what she really wanted to do was help first responders overcome burnout that comes from that career. Right? And at first, she was really afraid to go there. And obviously, there was a lot of imposter syndrome and stories, like it usually is with everybody. What she finally did, start by actually using TikTok. I don't know why I keep on talking about TikTok, but in this case, she used it and went super viral, like building everything around first responders. And that's what she's doing. I literally just caught a video of hers 2 or 3 days ago on TikTok where she was like, well, I just grew by like 10,000 followers in the last 24 hours. And let me tell you more about me. So her business is like basically gone like crazy growth. And she has these police departments from all over the US hiring her to, anyways, this was the power of going specific. And it's like, she was so afraid to take that leap in the beginning, but once she did, it was like, oh, wait a minute, there's something here.
My gosh, I love that example so much. I can't wait for my community to listen to this episode.
Yeah,
Fabi, because I just know they're going to love it, because this is right now in this season when we're recording this is a big conversation in the society, because that's what we don't open up the copy modules until we feel like your messaging is like clear and specific. Mm-hmm. So that's like the world that everybody's in right now. So it's so funny. Right before I hopped on with you, I was like answering questions in the Facebook group around this very thing. And so this is such a great example that you're giving, and remembering that, like, the example that I gave earlier about my coach that's supporting me after breast cancer is like nearly every area of our lives, we're constantly seeking out specialists. We're constantly looking for, whether it's in the medical field or wherever, we're looking for specialists. Mm-hmm. So being that answer for somebody like your client, for the first responders, it's like, it's just such a great example. I love that so much.
Yeah. I just think that it's always interesting to like, and I guess you probably have the same thing. I mean, just from what you're saying, it's what we have to work on with these people very often as coaches is for them to get over the BS and like, just do the damn thing.
Just do
like,
it.
Go there. What are you doing? And
yes.
It's always like them, like tiptoeing around it. And I think that a big part of it is imposter syndrome, because and I wrote like a big post about this the other day, and I actually got a bunch of DMs from people like, yep, that's me. I think that because sometimes you struggle with the thing that you teach. So using this example from AK, my client, part of the reason why she was afraid, and I can tell this because she's now shared this story publicly, is that when she was a first responder, there was a point where she was suicidal. And therefore she felt like, who am I now to come here and talk to these people when I've struggled with this personally? And obviously she got through that and all of these different things. But I think that there's this big imposter syndrome of like, I'm struggling sometimes with the thing that I'm teaching. So how do I sell this? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, totally. And I believe that, imposter syndrome is like, I think it can hold us back. And it can also like be a gift. Mm-hmm. And the holding us back is like, okay, let's really look at what the facts are here. Because usually we get down to the imposter syndrome and it's like stuff that we put on ourselves. It's like, right. Okay, let's actually look at the facts here. Like, you are very capable of supporting people in this way. And then I also feel like sometimes it's a gift, because there may be like an extra certification or support or a next level skill set that we can get. But guess what? That's doable. That shouldn't mean we have a muddied message. So we're just going to settle on a muddied message and no money.
Exactly.
So it's like, okay, if there's something that's really going to give you the confidence, let's go get that skill set. Let's go get that extra certification or whatever you feel that you need. And it's usually not as much as people think they need, but like, let's do that and like, look at it as a gift so that you can actually be profitable. So I will sometimes say to people, okay, well, let's go get that let's go do it, because you can't stay in this muddy message because you're not making money. So what is it that you want to do? Exactly. So I always tell people, like, I always say there's a hidden P in the proton pack. Mm-hmm. There's the P's I share with you. And I always say the hidden P is the P of profitability. Mm-hmm. And like, so what are we doing to be, profitable in getting that? So sometimes with like imposter syndrome, I'll look at people and I'm like, okay, yeah. So what are you going to do to feel better about that? Because you're not going to go and water down your message. That's not an option.
Well, I think that part of that, what I've learned too, and I think that people don't talk about often enough, is that sometimes that imposter syndrome can come from clients, not all of your clients getting the results that you are promising. But again, It comes back to what we're talking about today, is not having specificity. So you're enrolling clients who are not actually the right fit. And it's like, they fit, like you can cross off all like, or fill in the check boxes, like, but they fit all the boxes. Yeah, but they're not the right fit, because these are people who are not action takers, who are not committed, who are in blame mode. There's all of these things are going on that actually don't make them the right fit. And therefore you're enrolling people who are like paying you, and you think, well, they paid me and they fit, like, this is a coach, this is my client, but they're not really. And therefore you have people that don't get results within your program, and that just makes imposter syndrome more. So it really comes down to messaging at the end of the day.
100%. It really does. Everything goes back to messaging. I've had a few conversations the last few weeks on like a few podcasts, and it's so funny because like everything truly, I always say like there's no magic beans in your business, but I mean, it really all does go back to messaging.
100%.
This work is so needed, because if you have that strong foundation and people understand how you can help them, it's going to be a heck of a lot easier to do all the other things that you need to do, period. If we're starting with like it wishy-washy, we can't really get to where we have to go. And you can always expand. That's the beauty. You can always be, you know, for a long time in the business, it was really, I was supporting people with their copy and messaging. And it was like, that's what I was doing. That's what I was doing for 5 years. That's what I was doing. And recently we really have this other branch now around creating your own stage and summits. But the reason I'm able to do that is because I gave myself the opportunity to like have a clear way I was supporting people in the beginning.
That makes sense. Well, tell us a little bit about that part of the business and about building your own summit and why that is a great way to grow your business.
Yeah. You know, if you don't have an audience, you don't have buyers, right? We have to have people that we are selling to. And in my former life, I was an actor. I got my MFA in acting from the American Repertory Theater at Harvard. And what I started to notice about a lot of my classmates and my friends who were kind of quote unquote, like making it, were people who were creating their own stage. They were doing like a one-person show or a web series or like a stand-up. They were starting to do like bringing people to them. And I remember thinking, okay, I couldn't do that as an actor for whatever reason. It's a story for another day, like my own like trauma around acting. But I was like, okay, this is my plan B, but there could be no plan C. So what if I could like do that here and create my own stage and bring people? Because I knew I had something to say about this kind of actor's guide to copy and messaging, because I realized that everything that makes you a star on stage is everything that helps you become a star in your business. And my private clients at that time who I was writing for were getting really great results. They were getting like really high conversions, 60 plus conversions on landing pages. It was the gateway to things like $100,000 launches and things like that for them. So I knew that we were onto something, and I wanted to create this community. So I created my own signature summit called the Copy Chat in 2019. We're actually going into season 7 this summer. We've done 6 seasons, and I was able to grow my own email list. You know, I started with like 90 people on my email list. I always joke it was like my mom and my best friend Katie were like the ones that were like always responding. Right. And after 2 seasons of the Copy Chat, I now had a list of 5,000 people. I went from making 50,000 that year in 2018 as a done for you copywriter to making 250,000. And we've now made close to 2 million in the company, and we've never spent a dime on paid advertising.
That's amazing.
And so once you have that uncopyable message, like we're talking about, then you can create this stage for yourself to grow the audience so that you can get more of, you know, your work like out into the world and have that audience of buyers. And so we support people now. We have it's called the Signature Summit system. And we support you in like putting that together and creating your first signature summit. And then the beauty of it is that I have clients and people that go on to do, my gosh, you know, people are doing their 3rd, 4th season. So the ROI of it is really quite awesome, that you're kind of investing in this process, and then you can do it again and again. You know, a client of mine had a summit that was around helping therapists, talking about being specific, helping therapists really take care of themselves as therapists, like really create a profitable practice and like take care of themselves in the process. Her first season, she brought in 1,300 new leads. And that was like a gateway. She had about an $87,000 launch that came after that. And then in her second season, she brought in 2,300 new leads. Wow. And we have a charity. We have a give back component too. And she raised like over $15,000 for the charity that she had as well. So now she has this audience. It's actually funny. I was talking to her back in November. I was asking her a question about something, about if she was doing her 3rd season. And she said, or maybe it was her 4th. And she said, oh my gosh, Marisa, to be honest with you, I haven't had time to plan like whatever this next season was because the system works so well. We have people like coming in now for the program. So just like giving yourself that gift of like an uncopyable message and like the right audience to sell it to. And those are like my favorite things to support people with.
I love it. Now I'm very curious to find out about your system because it sounds really amazing. And I think what I like about it too is that it's great at building relationships with the people that are coming on your summit as well, which is also really powerful, true, right?
Oh yeah. So we say like the cool thing about the Signature Summit system is number one, it's never not going to grow your audience. We say you do this system, you're going to grow your audience anywhere between 500 to 2,000 plus new leads. We've done it enough to know. The second thing is that it establishes these rock star relationships within people in your industry. And I can go back to nearly every relationship or thing that I've had, and it all goes back to the copy chat in some way. Like it all goes back to that. And even last year, when I had breast cancer, we had to take a break from the copy chat. I was really worried about our fall launch because I wasn't coming off of a copy chat. And I was just floored by the people in the community and past speakers of the copy chat that were like, Marisa, we want to share about the Copy Confidence Society, like whatever you need, we're down, because the copy chat has just been such a great, like I've established these relationships and we were able to still have a 6-figure launch in the fall. And it was just so powerful to see the kind of ricochet effect. So you create these relationships and that's led to, oh, hey, Marisa, will you come and teach inside of my community? Oh, hey, Marisa, I know somebody, a podcast that you would be right for. So it establishes these like really incredible connections. And then you also become this rising tide that lifts all boats in your industry because we have a give back component. It's always free to listen into the summit, but we always have like a kit or an all access pass. And so the copy chat community, we've raised over $100,000 for charity off of the kit. So you have this opportunity to really put your money where your beliefs are and like establish a community that's really in alignment with your values. It's a really beautiful system in like a lot of ways that you then can use again and again. My goal is that people take it and go on to do it even better and, you know, keep growing their audiences and have really incredible launches inside of their business.
I love that. That's so beautiful and powerful. Okay. So last question that I have for you. And I always like asking this question because it's something that for me is really important. So I want to ask you how you incorporate mindset practices or personal development into your own growth of your business and your life and everything, or if you do at all, actually.
Into my own growth. Yeah. So this is something that I actually talk about at the beginning of the Copy Confidence Society. We always have this kickoff call to just set the stage of like, here's what's going on before we kind of just like throw you in, you know, like here's where you can find everything. And one of the things I talk about in there is about the need for layered support. So I always make it really clear, like I'm not a therapist. Like I really make it clear if you're going to run a business, the need for that layered support.
Yeah.
So for me, like therapy has been absolutely a game changer in my life to be able to sit and talk things out and have that space to work through. So that is number one for me in terms of running my business is like being in therapy and talking to my therapist like every other week and just making sure that like I'm taking care of myself in that way.
Yeah.
Also for me, it's also how I structure my days. So when I get up in the morning, I cannot like take call. Like my team knows I don't talk to anybody before 11 a.m. And we're on this all-American road trip. So to make this work, I've had to have very clear boundaries because I'm changing time zones.
Right.
And I've had to still be like, I don't care if I'm in California. I'm not talking to anybody before 11 a.m. my time, local.
Exactly.
Because I got to get up and I have to get out of wherever I am and I have to go outside and go for a walk. I have to go for a walk for about 45 minutes to an hour. I always get like a tea. I don't drink coffee. So I get a tea and I walk. I might listen to a podcast. My husband might come with me. We might talk. I might just go by myself and just like think my own thoughts.
Right.
That's really important for me of how like I establish my day. So it's like, that is really key. I take another walk at the end of the day too. So like I start my day and end it. And usually at the second walk, my husband does walk with me. So the first one's usually be me by myself, but the second one, he does come and I just have a moment to kind of talk out like everything that happened today. So I would say like my walks in nature.
That's good. That's really good.
And therapy are huge for me. Those would be my two.
I like the idea of that walk in the morning and the afternoon, because it also like starts your day, but also ends the day, right? Like,
yes,
sometimes when we work from home or wherever you're hanging out, traveling all over, it's very difficult for you to separate stuff. And I do a great job of stuff because I have 3 kids. So I have to pick them up from school and homework, and does a great job of, changing gears. But there's days when I'm like 11 o'clock at night and I'm telling my husband, you know what? I just came up with an idea for my new webinar. He's like, okay, great. Can we talk about it?
Great. Yeah, I think it's important to have that. So that's something that I will do with Eric. Like we have that walk to be like, okay, let me talk out like ideas that I have. I'll come home from that. I'll set I have this little pad. I know we're like audio, but I'll write down like what is for the next day on there. And then that's what like I go off of too.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. This has been, I feel like we could have done for hours, but
this is awesome.
Yeah. Really, really good. Where can people find you? And all of the different things that you have available.
Yeah, I think a great place is to find me. We have an awesome, it's called the Copy Chat Facebook group. And it's a great community to come in, and it's our free Facebook group to like ask your copy questions. I go live in there. I talk a lot about messaging. So that's a great place to like really find like community around your copy. We have like lots of great conversations in there. And then I always say like on Instagram, I'm at M Tony with an I. And I always say like, DM me if there was something that you heard that maybe you heard in a different way or something that really stood out to you. I always really love to hear that. I will respond to you in the DM. So DM me.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks, Fabi. Thanks for having me.
Gracias for listening to today's episode of the Breakthrough Brand Show. To listen to more episodes or to be featured as a guest, go to fabipaolini.com/podcast for more details. Can I ask you for something? If you got value out of this episode, would you share it on social media? Just do a quick screenshot with your phone and text it to a friend, or just post it online. If you know somebody that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let me know about the show and include the hashtag Breakthrough Brand Show. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We're regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure that you don't miss any episode, go ahead and subscribe right now. Your thumbs up, rating, amor, love, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and mean so much to me and my team. Want to know more? Go to our website, fabipaolini.com, or follow me everywhere as Fabi Paolini. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time. Con amor, Fabi.